If you've been making music for a while, chances are you've heard of Apogee Electronics, the audio brand that's known for its stellar audio interfaces such as the Apogee Duet and Symphony. People love their hardware, but did you know that Apogee also makes high-end mixing plugins? Honestly, somehow I didn't. Until now. So in today's video, I want to explore what their plugins sound like, and more importantly, how we can use them effectively when mixing. To do that, I'll be specifically building a pop vocal chain using their plugins exclusively. This will include multiple EQs and compressors of both the transparent and colorful variety, as well as effects such as reverb, delay, and more. This should be helpful if you're mixing with these tools yourself and want to see how somebody else uses them, or if you're just curious to hear how they sound in a real-world mixing scenario. As a bonus, you'll get an idea of how I approach mixing a pop vocal step by step, which should be helpful in your own mixing as well. If you want to check out any of these plugins for yourself, by the way, I'm going to leave links to everything I covered down in the description below. Let's first begin by playing the vocal that we're going to be working with in its raw state.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da.
Overall, it's in a decent starting place, but to be fair, this was also recorded in a less than ideal environment, a home type of environment on budget gear, which is going to replicate what a lot of you are probably working with in your own recording situations. Because of that, this vocal has a few problems that are pretty common and standard across the board that we want to address through this vocal chain that we're about to create. And for me, that usually starts with using an EQ to apply some surgical type of treatment to the vocal, sculpting the overall tone and preparing it for the processes that are going to follow. For that, I'm going to be using Apogee's transparent EQ plugin, which is going to be the Mod EQ. This is a 6-band parametric EQ with a low and high cut filter, as well as 4 main bands. As you're going to see in a moment, there's a frequency analyzer that's going to be appearing in the background, which will help us make more effective EQ decisions. And to up the ante, we also have access to a solo frequency button, which can really allow us to pinpoint what we're affecting and make sure that we're making the right moves. Now, on this vocal in particular, like many vocals that are recorded in less than ideal environments, there's an excessive buildup of low frequencies in particular. And ultimately, that's producing a muddy or less clear sound. Now, of course, we don't want to overdo treating this area because it is responsible for a lot of warmth and presence at the same time. But what I want to do is specifically use a low cut filter to remove some of those low end, subby, rumbly frequencies, essentially the stuff that we're not going to notice. But because I know that a filter is a lot more aggressive, what I'm going to do is probably stack it and combine it with a shelf as well. And that'll allow me to make a little bit more of a sculpted, less aggressive move in the low end as well, if I feel like I need to treat some of the lower mid range at the same time.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run.
So in typical 5-piece fashion, I decided to obviously aggressively affect things at first to really hear what I'm doing and then back off and ease up a little bit. But now with our low end roughly processed, we can now turn our attention more to the high end. And there's 2 things that I want to do here in particular. Number 1, you can hear that there's a bit of an excessive harshness taking place at times, especially around sibilants and some of those harsher phrases in the upper mid range. So I'm going to want to take one of these bands and push it up here to reduce a little bit of that, to ultimately smooth and soften things out. At the same time, again, this vocal is not recorded in the best environment, environment or even on the best equipment. So because of that, and this is something that I don't always do, but I am going to try in this case, I'm actually going to enable my high frequency cutoff here, and I'm probably going to roll off just a little bit of high end. Okay, I'm not going to go too crazy because we obviously don't want to remove too much and then ultimately darken the vocal, make it less articulate, but I do want to try to get rid of some of that hissy noise that's taking place in the background and also just soften some of that harshness that's taking place in the top end once again. So let's pursue both of those moves with this one EQ.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run.
So these two moves seem to be appropriate, taking out just a little bit of 5,000 Hertz by about 3 dB, and at the same time cutting off just around 17.5K. Following the EQ, I want to apply some compression as the second part of this process, and I'm specifically going to be relying on the mod comp from Apogee in this case. Now, just like the mod EQ, this is a transparent compression option, which is also very simple and straightforward. It gives you access to all the standard compression features you'd expect: threshold, ratio, knee, attack, release, and a makeup gain, but it does have a few handy things that I like. In particular, I like that it has a built-in auto gain function, which will essentially match the volume and make up for what you're losing automatically, which makes it a little bit more foolproof instead of having to manually add makeup gain yourself, which is usually not 100% accurate. If you want to use this in parallel or just ease up on the compression effect period, you can use the dry effects knob. It has a few style settings, which you can see affects the attack and release, with easy mode completely getting rid of it, and then leveler having its own unique settings from the punch, for example. And of course, one of the best features about this plugin is it has a great visual interface that's going to show you how you're affecting the dynamics over time. Now for me in this case, this vocal is particularly a lot louder in the second half in comparison to the first half. So the part where she's saying don't run and repeating that phrase, it's a lot louder and more dominant. There's a lot more peaks, and overall it's just a lot more overbearing in comparison to the first half of the chorus. Therefore, I'm going to actually specifically focus on the second half here as I set this compressor up. I'm going to be dialing in these settings to effectively reduce the second half quite a bit, and then later I am going to reference the first half to make sure that what we're doing complements that as well. That being said, let's dial in some settings and see what we can do.
Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run, don't run, don't run.
So I made a last minute change up at the end there, switching into the leveler mode, which I just found to be a little bit more complimentary. Seems like it's slowing down the release as well, making things sound just a bit smoother overall. And you could tell in particular that the first half of the chorus here was not being affected that much. Some lines barely even got adjusted, such as the one right before the don't run comes in. But overall, we're probably losing somewhere between 1 to 3 dB on average. Whereas the second half of the chorus slash outro in this case, we're getting significantly more compression, upwards of 5 dB, which is ultimately what I wanted. I wanted the second half to ultimately come down in volume significantly more so that it was better aligned with the level of the first half. And that's ultimately allowing us to produce a more upfront, consistent vocal sound. So far, I've been very focused on surgery and essentially cleaning up the vocal, making sure that it sounds consistent, but also isn't tonally too problematic. But now I want to get into adding some color and flavor with these next two EQ options, which is going to be the two Pultec plugins from Apogee, being the Pultec MEQ-5 and the Pultec EQP-1A. Now, unlike other Pultec plugins out there, this one is officially licensed and endorsed by Pulse Techniques, the original creators of the Pultec, and accurately emulates the behavior of the hardware as well. Now, the MEQ-5 in particular is great for dealing with mid-range, whereas the EQP-1A is really focused on the high and low end and manipulating that in particular. Now, something that I notice happens a lot after compression, especially early on in the process, is that lower mid-range frequencies creep up a little bit, start to produce a little bit more muddiness within the vocal. Because of that, one of my go-to techniques is to first use the mid-range equalizer to clean up somewhere between 2 and 500 hertz, which is usually where that muddiness lives. In addition to that, I'm also going to add a little bit of frequency content somewhere in this 1.5 to 5K area. We're going to have to suss it out, of course, but this is really where the vocal intelligibility lives, and I really want the vocal to dominate this area in particular, so I might add just a little bit to increase its presence there. Let's see what we can do.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run.
So this seems to be a pretty complimentary move. I'm reducing 300 hertz by about 2 dB, and you did see me use the peak side of things just to make sure that I really knew what I was hearing, adding to that first, making sure I'm hearing that come up, and then saying, okay, that is actually the frequency that I need to adjust, and then going back into the dip and actually adjusting it there. And then on the upper mid-range side of things, while I flipped through these frequencies, I felt that 4 and 5 was just reintroducing some of that harshness. Of course, I was doing a drastic boost at the same time, which is going to overemphasize that, but I ultimately felt somewhere between 2 and 3K felt best, so I'm adding just 1 dB of presence there, and you can hear that when I flip it out and flip it in, that there's just this increase in brightness, in presence, and ultimately a reduction in terms of that lower end muddiness that I was referring to earlier. But I don't want to totally villainize low end either. In fact, you need it for that warmth, that presence, that fullness in a vocal. And for that reason, let's take a look at using this EQP-1A to maybe add a little bit more of that. Now remember, we took out a little bit of 300, but I do find that somewhere between that 100 to 200, again, there's a little bit of bass presence in the vocal there that you can add to thicken it up, but without totally making it muddy and unarticulated. At the same time, we could use the high end of this EQ, particularly above 10K, maybe 10, 12, 16, somewhere in that window, to add just a little bit more shine and brightness. So we're going to set this up a little bit, and I'm probably going to play with the bandwidth, but just keep that in mind as I dial in these settings.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind.
And that's definitely overall enhancing it, as I would expect a Pultec plugin to do. We're definitely getting a little bit more of that fullness and warmth from this very subtle low end boost, which is less than 1 dB at 100. And at the same time, I'm really cranking this higher frequency around 12 with about a 4.5 to 5 dB type of boost with a fairly wide bandwidth. It's definitely creeping up the high end a little bit too much, so I do have to maybe watch that, maybe back off on it soon, or maybe even add another surgical EQ to follow this process. But right now, let's leave this as is. I overall think it's sounding pretty good. Now, moving on from this additive EQ, I want to apply one more compressor into my chain. In other words, I'm going to basically be using a form of serial compression, but of course with some EQ in between. My goal with this next compressor, and for that I'm actually going to be using the Apogee Opto 3A, is to add a little bit more character to the vocal as a whole with this compression process, because this is a more colorful option. And this compressor has some excellent functionality that comes in handy in situations like this. First, you have your standard optical compression controls, being a gain and a peak reduction setting. And these compressors tend to have slower attack and release times, which leads to a smoother compression sound as a whole, so that's why you don't have these controls available here. We can not only compress our vocal, but also limit it, and I may actually limit it in this case. We'll see in a moment. You can switch from the output meter to the gain reduction, which is obviously what I'm going to leave in this case so I can see how much volume we're losing. It has a high pass sidechain filter here, so that way you can allow the low frequencies to not trigger the compression. You can even blend the dry and compressed sound with this dry effects knob here if you want for some parallel style processing. And one of the more interesting aspects of this compressor is the high frequency contour with a cut, flat, and boost setting. Essentially, this modifies how the compressor reacts to low and high frequencies. If you move towards the boost setting, for example, the compressor is going to affect and reduce the high frequencies more than the low frequencies. But on the opposite, if you move towards the cut setting, it's going to actually affect the low frequencies more than the high frequencies. This is really just an excellent tonal option, and of course, if you don't want to use it, you could just leave it to flat, which is what I'm going to do to start. So with that in mind, let's set this compressor up and see what we can do.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da.
Overall, you can hear that it's exerting a lot more control over the vocal, which is smoothing out those dynamics, enabling it to not be so fluctuating, if that makes sense. It's definitely altering the frequency presence a little bit as well, but overall you can hear how it's ultimately producing a more upfront and direct vocal sound, even with the volume roughly matched. So as one final bit of housekeeping before we move into effects, I want to add one more instance of the mod EQ to particularly treat some of this higher end harshness that's coming up once again. This is not unusual for me. I will typically go EQ, compressor, and gently sculpt things, especially as each process sort of changes the harmonic content a little bit more, and therefore I usually will finalize my vocal with some sort of EQ. This means I'm not going to necessarily do a bunch of moves here. I may just do one or two, really focused on that upper mid-range once again to make sure that problem is quelled. So let's do it.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind.
Just two very subtle moves here. One focused on that lower mid-range around 400, a little bit of a boxy, muddy sound, and the other focused on the upper mid-range, somewhere around 8,000 hertz, a very airy, sometimes harsh and brittle sound once again. And I just want to point something out about this EQ if you haven't noticed. Notice how I'm actually going pretty aggressive with some of these cuts by 4 dB, for example. Doing that with some other EQs really produces a much more noticeable sound, and not necessarily in a good way, whereas this one is very musical, as you can hear. So don't let the simple interface fool you. I think this is a very powerful and musical option, period. But now let's actually explore Apogee's effects module here, and I'm actually going to apply this directly to the vocal, which you may think is crazy. If you want to actually apply this on a parallel track, you're more than welcome to, but I want to talk specifically about Clearmountain's Domain. Now, if I'm being honest, this may be my favorite plugin from the bunch because it has a lot of utility. If you're looking for a multi-effects unit, I think this is it because it comes with a delay, pitch and reverb, and an overall mixer. And that's why I'm actually applying this directly to my vocal, because I can easily blend the overall level of all these effects in one clean interface. I also have the option to only use a few of them, so I can mute, for example, the reverbs and other delays and just keep one delay, or I can chain them together to create some unique creative effects. If we scroll through some of these windows, you can see it has a lot of other utility built right in, such as a de-esser for the delay and the reverb, as well as built-in EQs, controls over the delay parameters, such as how long the delay should be or the offset, even the EQ of the delay as well, more control over the reverb and the pitch shifting, and really everything you could possibly need to affect a vocal and control that effect more importantly. Now you can imagine this can get really deep, so what I actually want to do in this case for efficiency is just use a preset that they have here, and then do some subtle adjusting to arrive at my final vocal sound where we could do a final comparison. So I'm actually going to try out this one, Tougher Than the Rest, LV delay. I'm going to assume that means lead vocal. And before I do anything else, let's just audition what this sounds like as is, and chances are it's going to be too much, but I just want to audition the sound and get a feel for it.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run.
So as you can hopefully tell, it was pretty easy to arrive at a sound that's pretty compelling just by using a preset and simply manipulating the dry, wet, and overall level of some of these effects. Of course, if I want to go deeper, I can go in, but the preset's already taken care of a lot of stuff for me. It already has a built-in EQ curve, a built-in delay sync. It's got its own settings in terms of the pitch shift for the left and right channels. And overall, I think it's just sounding pretty compelling, even with only a 10% dry-wet ratio. The delay effects in particular definitely seem to be a little bit extreme at times. And to maybe alleviate that, I can go into the delay setting in particular and adjust these EQ curves. I'm going to specifically link the EQ in this case, so that way I can make adjustments to both simultaneously.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight. I don't mind, don't mind. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Da da da, don't run. Don't run, don't run.
Well, that seems to be pretty good. I actually adjusted the left and right EQ of the delay itself, making it feel a little bit more analog, and then I also added a little bit more de-essing to ensure that those harsh frequencies are not becoming too pronounced on both the delay and the reverb. So as a final comparison, I'm going to play this one more time without all these Apogee plugins, and I'm going to put them in and we can see how far we've come, and I'm also going to do it in a context so we can hear with all the other instrumental elements as well.
Tell me, is this real or am I wasting time? Butterflies like UFOs in space tonight.
you can hear the difference from where we started and where we ended up, and to be fair, there is still a little bit more work to do, particularly automation-wise, as the level of the vocal fluctuates just a little bit more, and I gotta get a little bit more micro to solve that. But considering just the static vocal chain, you can already hear quite an immense improvement in terms of the vocal's presence, clarity, and tonal balance. To me, it sounds clearer, fuller, more upfront, and overall more complementary within the mix. We're definitely getting more of that high-end vocal sound as well, which is in line with pop music in general. What's really cool though is we only use 6 of the plugins that Apogee has to offer, and they actually have more on their website if you're curious to check it out. I'm gonna leave links to that down below once again. Overall, these are really high quality tools that have a lot of utility built right in, as I've shown you, and more importantly, they sound very musical, especially in comparison to other tools that are out there. But I'm curious to hear from you. What do you guys think of these plugins and how they sound? Do you like them? Are you thinking about checking them out? Let me know in the comments down below. If you got value out of the video, please give it a like so we can reach more good people like yourself. And if you're new here, consider subscribing to see more mixing content like this in the future. If you want to see another vocal mixing video I did, click the card you see on screen to watch that next, and I'll also leave a bunch of other vocal mixing playlists on the other side of the screen as well. I'll see you next time. Peace.
5.